In Green Hill Village, everyone wondered why the dogs always chased old Mrs. Martha. Whenever she stepped out of her small mud house, packs of dogs from all corners of the village would run after her, barking wildly. She would scream and run, waving her hands in fear, while the villagers whispered and shook their heads. For many years, the people of Green Hill Village lived in peace, but there was one strange thing everyone talked about: the old woman named Mrs. Martha. She was about 80 years old. She hardly spoke to anyone and always stayed inside her small mud house at the edge of the village. But whenever Mrs. Martha stepped outside, even for a short walk or to fetch water, something shocking happened. The village dogs, big and small, stray and old, would suddenly rise and begin to bark. Their barks were so loud that the whole village would hear. They would rush at her, circle her, and chase her down the street as if she had done something terrible. Mrs. Martha would scream and cry, running as fast as her weak legs could carry her, waving her hands to keep the dogs away. The children would climb on fences to watch. Some laughed. Others were too scared to even come out. "Why do dogs always chase this old woman?" the villagers whispered. Some said maybe she smells of something the dogs don't like. Others said, no, maybe there is something we don't know about her. One young man named David, who worked as a farmer, shook his head and said, "This is not normal. Dogs don't just gather from all corners to chase one person. Something is wrong." But Mrs. Martha never explained. She only cried and begged the villagers to help her whenever the dogs came. But the next day, the same thing will happen again. Soon, many people began to avoid her. They told their children, "Stay away from that old woman. She carries bad luck. Even the dogs know it." Mrs. Martha lived in loneliness and shame. She wished she could live like others, but the strange curse of the dogs never left her. The villagers didn't know that behind this mystery lay a dark secret from many years ago. A secret that will one day come to light and shock the whole village. One hot afternoon, the whole village gathered in the square. The elders had called a meeting because the problem with Mrs. Martha had gone on for too long. That morning, she had only stepped out to buy firewood, and more than 10 dogs had chased her from one end of the market to the other. She fell into a muddy pit while running and came back home with torn clothes and bleeding knees. The villagers were angry. Some wanted her to be sent away. Others wanted the chief to find out the truth. The chief, Chief Okoro, an old but wise man, said, "We cannot throw her out without knowing the reason. We must ask the gods to reveal why the dogs hate her so much." The elders agreed to bring the village priest, Papa Jonah, a white old man known for speaking the truth. That evening, they all went to Mrs. Martha's small mud house. When Papa Jonah saw her, he looked at her for a long time. He shook his head slowly and said, "Old woman, the earth remembers what we do. You cannot hide forever. Tonight, you will confess before the villagers." Mrs. Martha trembled. "Confess? I am only a poor old woman. I don't know why the dogs hate me," she said with tears in her eyes. But Papa Jonah raised his hand and said, "Dogs do not chase the innocent. They smell what humans cannot. If you do not confess, the truth will still come out." The villagers murmured in fear. The wind that night was heavy and strange. The dogs outside the hut barked as if they were waiting for something. Chief Okoro spoke firmly. "Martha, this is your chance. Tell us the truth." Mrs. Martha fell on her knees, shaking. Her eyes were full of pain as she whispered, "Many years ago, when I was young and greedy, I made a terrible mistake." Everyone leaned forward to hear her. She went on, her voice cracking. "I had a friend named Ada, a kind woman who had no children. I was jealous of her rich husband. One night, when I was desperate for wealth, A strange old man came to me and promised me riches if I would take something that belonged to Ada. He gave me a charm and told me to bury Ada's newborn baby at the edge of the forest before the child's first cry. I, I, I did it. I thought no one saw me. The villagers gasped in horror. Papa Jonah's face became stern. So, the blood of the innocent child cries against you. The dogs chase you because the spirit of that child has never rested. Mrs. Martha wept bitterly, beating her chest. I was foolish. I have lived with this curse for 40 years. I thought the past was buried with the baby, but the dogs never let me forget. The whole village was silent. Some women began to cry. David clenched his fist and said, "So all these years, the dogs were not mad. They were the voice of justice." Papa Jonah turned to Chief Okoro and said, "The curse will not leave her until she goes to the forest where she buried the child and asks for forgiveness." The villagers looked at Mrs. Martha. Her face was full of shame, but for the first time, they understood why the dogs always chased her. The next morning, the whole village followed Mrs. Martha and Papa Jonah to the edge of the forest. The dogs trailed behind them, silent this time, as if they were waiting. When they reached the old tree where Martha had buried the baby so many years ago, she fell on her knees and began to weep. Her hands shook as she dug into the earth with her fingers. Papa Jonah lifted his staff and prayed aloud, "Spirit of the innocent child, today the truth has come to light. Let there be forgiveness and peace." Mrs. Martha cried out, "I was wicked. I stole an innocent life. Forgive me." A sudden breeze passed through the trees. The villagers held their breath. The dogs that had always barked and chased her sat quietly around the spot. For the first time in 40 years, Mrs. Martha felt a strange calmness. She whispered, "Forgive me, Ada. Forgive me, little one." Papa Jonah sprinkled holy water on the ground and said, "Now the earth knows the truth. The curse is broken." When they returned to the village, the dogs no longer barked or chased her. They walked past her like any other villager. But Martha never smiled again. She lived the rest of her days in quietness, helping the poor and warning the young never to let greed lead them into evil. Moral lessons. No sin stays buried forever. The truth always comes out. Greed and jealousy destroy lives. Be content with what you have. The innocent may be silent, but their cry reaches heaven. Forgiveness can bring peace, but repentance must come first. Dear viewers, thank you for watching this dramatic and shocking story to the end. Stories like this reminds us that our actions have consequences and the truth always finds a way to shine. If you love powerful stories with lessons that can change lives, please subscribe to my channel, like and share this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you more engaging dramatic folk tales every week. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next story. Stay with us and keep learning because every story has a lesson to guide our lives.